Hello class, Mrs. Tanga again. This one is specifically for finding your ionic forms for your elements, okay? So let's just remind ourselves that when we have a metal, our metals usually give all valence, okay? Valence electrons, and then the charge, this will be a cation, which means your charge will be a positive depending on how much you lost. Okay? So let's say you have calcium. Okay? So if you look on your screen, this is where calcium is. So the first thing I need to do is find how much valence electrons do I have. Okay? By finding the valence, then we can proceed writing down its ionic form. So in this case, because it's a metal, and it's in group two, your valence electrons is 2. Okay. Now, because it is a metal, it will lose. And how many we lose? We will lose 2. Okay, because we lose all of our valence electrons. And because this now is losing, so keep in mind, why is it losing positive? Because if you lose electrons, okay, if you lose electrons, you are now turning more positive because now you have more positive charges than the negative, okay? So in this case, we're going to just rewrite calcium. And when you're writing the charge, you're going to write the charge of how many it lost. So since it lost, it's going to be a plus. And since there's 2 that it lost, it's going to be a 2. So this is what we call the ionic form of calcium. Okay. Now, how about for nonmetals? So for nonmetals, okay, you need this, you need to know this one. For nonmetals, they will take electrons, okay, take electrons to get to 8 valence, okay? So that means they will take or steal electrons from another thing just so they can have 8 valence electrons, okay? So in this case, it becomes an anion and it is negatively charged. Okay, oops, negatively charged because it's gaining more electrons. The more electrons you get, the more negative you get. So for example, let's look at oxygen. Okay, so I'm gonna mark and I'm gonna go and focus on oxygen. So oxygen has how many valence? Since oxygen is in group 16, that means it will have 6 valence electrons. So 6 valence, okay? Now, because for nonmetals, they will take to get to 8. For this to become 8, I need to add 2 more electrons. Got it? So in this case, we are going to gain those 2 extra electrons to get to 8. And so what happens then is we will be, sorry, I need to erase that wrong spelling. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to write our element. And then for the symbol, because it gained electrons, it's going to be a negative. And then we're going to write down how many electrons it gained, and that would be a 2. So this is how we write your oxygen in its ionic form. So go ahead and practice that on your review sheet.